myself a real good time. I feel alive, and the world, I'm turning inside out. Yeah, I'm floating around in ecstasy. So don't stop me now. Don't stop me, 'cause I'm having a good time, having a good time. I'm a shooting star leaping through the sky like a tiger, defying the laws of gravity. I'm a racing car passing by like Lady Godiva. I'm gonna go, go, go. There's no stopping me. I'm burning through the sky, yeah. 200 degrees, that's why they call me Mr. Fahrenheit. I'm traveling at the speed of light. I wanna make a supersonic man out of you. Don't stop me now. I'm having such a good time. I'm having a ball. Don't stop me now. If you wanna have a good time, just give me a call. Don't stop me 'cause now. I'm having a good time. Don't stop me yes, now. I'm having a good time. I don't wanna stop at all. Yeah. I'm a rocket ship on my way to Mars on a collision course. I am a satellite. I'm out of control. I'm a sex machine ready to reload like an atom bomb about to explode. I'm burning through the sky, yeah. 200 degrees, that's why they call me Mr. Fahrenheit. I'm traveling at the speed of light. I'm gonna make a supersonic woman of you. Don't stop me, don't stop me, don't stop me. Hey, hey, hey! Don't stop me, don't stop me. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Don't stop me, don't stop me. Have a good time, good time. Don't stop me, don't stop me. Oh! Burning through the sky, yeah. 200 degrees, that's why they call me Mr. Fahrenheit. Traveling at the speed of light, I wanna make a supersonic man out of you. Don't stop me now. I'm having such a good time. I'm having a ball. Don't stop me now. If you wanna have a good time, just give me a call. Don't stop me now. 'Cause I'm having a good time. Don't stop me yes, now. I'm having a good time. I don't wanna stop at all. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da.
Woodbridge Warriors in the house. Darren Love here, class of 1978. And before I tell you what I miss the most about England, I want to talk about the leadership of Woodbridge High School staff and faculty, from Dr. Seligman to the late great Mr. Earl Hicks. There are 4 types of bones that symbolize 4 types of leaders. The jawbone, which symbolizes the type leader that talks about what's going to get done. The tailbone, which symbolizes the type leader that sits around and waits for something to get done. The knucklebone, which symbolizes the type leader that tries to force something to happen. And finally, the backbone, which symbolizes the type leader that backs the students up 100% during the good, bad, and the indifferent. During rain, sleet, or snow, these leaders are there for the students around the clock 24/7. These are the type leaders that Woodbridge American High School always were, always will be, and always have been, bar none. Another thing I miss about England is the sports competitions against the other bases. All the other schools were bigger, had more money, better facilities, better resources, better uniforms, but they lacked one thing that the Woodbridge Warriors had, and that's heart. They should have went and followed the yellow brick road and went to see the Wizard of Oz and got some heart. In the Bible, 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 7 says, "I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith." We believed in ourselves. We didn't win all the games, football games and basketball games, and we didn't win all the wrestling and track meets, but we were fierce competitors. We competed with heart, with faith, determination, tenacity, vigilance, and we displayed shock and awe. And when we competed, the other schools knew that we were a force to be reckoned with. And as I said before, we didn't win all the games, or all the track meets or wrestling meets, but if a fight broke out, we did win the fight. And I'll tell you what, not that anybody kept track, but the way I figure, from 1974 to 1977, we were 12-0 with 12 knockouts. That's because if you was from Woodbridge, you was no punk. Woodbridge had no punks. If you was from Woodbridge, you was a warrior. No pun intended, a true warrior. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the UK dances. Woodbridge was always clean to the bone, from head to toe, with our brims on our head to our 6-inch stacks on our feet. When we went to an AYA dance, all UK dance, and walked into that AYA, they knew that Woodbridge was in the house. We were in there like swimwear. And when you looked at all the other bases and what the kids was wearing, they were tore up from the floor. They looked like they just got off work from a Chippy. And speaking of Chippies, I miss those fish and chips. When you walked into Chippy and you smelled those fish and chips, and then you ordered some, and they got that newspaper and wrapped it around like a funnel cone, and then they put the chips in there, and then the fish in there, and then poured the salt and vinegar on there, and you walked out and you ate some of the fish and ate some of the chips. And I'll tell you what, KFC thought they coined the term finger licking good. That's a lie. All the UK brats did that, because when you had the residue of that salt and vinegar on your hand, there was only one thing to do, and that was to lick your fingers like this. And if you don't know, you better ask somebody. The last thing I miss is the brats' way of life that the average Joe and the average Jane in the United States did not get to see. While in England, we saw the British culture. We saw Buckingham Palace, the countryside, all the castles in there. That's something that everybody doesn't get to see. And a great percentage of us, when we graduated, we joined the military just like our fathers before us. And I'll tell you, my father spent 22 years in the military, and I spent 23.5 years in the military. And during those years, I was able to see the Philippines, England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland, Germany, France, Belgium, Holland, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, and Turkey, just to name a few. I guess you can say I'm the man of this world. And I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I drink Dos Equis. And when I drink Dos Equis, I drink it from my Woodbridge Warrior beer mug. Stay thirsty, my friends. Peace out.
Hey Woodbridge Warriors, this is Karen Meredith, class of 77. I came to Woodbridge Bentwaters 1975. I was in my junior year. We lived off base in a little town called Marlsford in a very old manor. A couple of the reasons that I enjoyed being in England was all of the history. The Renaissance period was probably my most favorite time in history, and I really enjoyed being able to actually see and visit some of those things that I learned about in school. The other thing was just the camaraderie that we all had at Woodbridge. You know, it was a small school, and I can tell you from the day I got there, I felt very welcomed, and everybody was so friendly. What else can I say? A lot of fond memories, and who else wouldn't want to live in a place where you can go to the pubs at the age of 16, right?
Hi, Ricky. I've been thinking about this question all day about how Woodbridge affected my life. And I think the best way I can describe it is that I was always a very awkward person. Haven't outgrown that, but Woodbridge was the first place that I felt that I could actually grow in that awkwardness and find an outlet. Theater, cheerleading, student council, all those sort of things. And because the school was so small, there was an opportunity for everybody, if they had the initiative, to get involved in some way or the other. There were just so many groups, so many sports, so many activities, that somebody that had the inclination would be able to find that. And that's one of the things I love the most about Woodbridge. I love that it was small numbers. I think that I would have been lost in a traditional conservative school stateside. But I think because we all were so isolated and so sheltered and protected, that we were safe in our environment to explore a lot of different options. And because we were such a small school, you'd be very hard-pressed to be completely lost in terms of having a place within that school, be it in theater or track or football or whatever your kind of particular inclination was. I think Woodbridge was the first time I felt I could be myself, whatever that was. I didn't know what it was at the time, but it created an outlet for me that, had I not had Woodbridge, I don't know that I'd have ever found any particular niche, because there were such great opportunities there. Mrs. Carter and her amazing high standards, I think, pushed us all to do the very best that we could do. And that's with all the teachers. You did want to do your best. I didn't always do my best, but that was just because I was lazy. But with Mrs. Carter, I really tried. I tried as hard as I could. And yeah, I even pack bags to this day exactly the way I did when I was trained at the commissary in Woodbridge, Bentwaters, because it's just in me. And my kids still make fun of me to this day about the way I pack my bags and how a little bit crazy I am when it comes to doing so. So I hope this is some kind of help. Woodbridge, I think, changed a lot of our lives, and I think for the better.
Hey Warriors, by now I know you're having a great time. I thought maybe I could contribute to the reunion by reading a blog I wrote like 3 years ago now, called the Woodbridge Warrior Experience. When I was a youngster, I had the most fortunate experience of my dad being transferred to Bentwaters Woodbridge Twin Air Bases near Ipswich, England. I was a sixth grader, highly impressionable and terribly concerned about being accepted by others. Like any military brat, I was learning how to move away from everyone and everything I knew and start fresh again. I always viewed it as a blessing that would teach me how to get along with anyone and give me an opportunity to reinvent myself again and again should the need arise. Stateside kids never had it so good. Shortly after we arrived, I noticed there was something different about this place. Everybody seemed to get along. There were no apparent color lines or class distinctions. There were no cool kids versus nerds, jocks versus scholars, loners versus socialites. We were just all there, all together, and all loving every minute of it. In my later years, I often tried to figure out what made the place so special. Was it because almost all of our dads had the same employer? Was it because there was an absence in disparity of pay? Was it because we all seemed to occupy the same base housing? Was it because we were all mostly Americans living in a foreign land together where the foreigners actually spoke our language? Whatever it was, and I have some deeper thoughts, the effect produced by the place was almost universal. I thought I was the only one that loved Woodbridge so dearly before I stumbled upon MySpace and Facebook. But then, to my surprise, almost everyone who lived there had a similar experience. I mean, folks who were there when I was, folks who lived there before me, and folks who arrived after me. How many of my dearest friends have told me that it was still the best experience of their lives? How many of our parents said the same thing? How many wish they could have lived there forever? How many? Now I know why I wept so heavily when it was time for reassignment. One of my earliest memories of talking to God was me telling him tearfully, well, it's just me and you again. I look back with great fondness at walking through the woods to get to school. I remember what seemed to be the greatest teachers on earth. I practically lived at the AYA playing ping pong and foosball every day. And wow, what about the dances? What about the music at the dances? God, how I look forward to those dances. I remember me and Matt Howell putting on our super clean threads, stacks, and heavy doses of high karate aftershave. I remember playing Truth or Dare on the buses to other bases and French kissing a girl named Terry for the first time amidst a game of spin the bottle. If it wasn't Boone's Farm on the bus ride, it was MD 2020 in the woods. I'm still proud of playing on the soccer team wearing our England national team jerseys via Coach Booty. I played baseball for the Eagles and went from being an also-ran right fielder to the starting first baseman for the All-Star team traveling to Germany. I hit 1,000 balls on those tennis courts. I gave the pinball machine at the bowling alley every quarter I ever got. I dribbled that basketball at the gym and was in awe of Daryl Stacy and Big O. I was inducted into the Stud Club by Dino Moya, rest in peace Dino, and then met Rico and Darren and Ricky Love. Tony Lombardo was also in the club. I had girlfriends whose names I'll leave off for all the right reasons. Man, what a childhood. So now, many years later, in adult retrospect, I still ponder what it was that made that place so wonderful. It couldn't be that I was only in my formative years, because my parents felt the same way. It wasn't a love era, but love was very present there. It couldn't have been living in a foreign country because almost all my friends were American. So what was it? I believe it was God. I think he sent me to a haven where I could learn to love people and be protected from things that jade other people. I believe he taught me love and tenderness there that would be the precursor of the man I am today. He showed me a little slice of earth where your color, your money, your status doesn't matter. He showed me how life really should be, with people living together, loving each other, and seeking the best from each other. You may disagree with my conclusions, and that's certainly your right, but how many of my fellow warriors for life love God? Maybe some don't, but they were still blessed to live in the haven. Words probably cannot express how thankful I am for having grown up there. That place changed me in ways I can't even describe. And since then, I've never lived in a place so sweet. Don't get me wrong, my experience there wasn't the best until this day, because that God I whispered to many years ago introduced himself to me in the most profound and lasting ways. I found the perfect wife and I have the best family ever. I'm living a dream life, but good old Woodbridge certainly ranks as my #1 place to grow up. Thank you, God, for allowing me to grow up as a Woodbridge warrior. Amen. Amen.
Hi everyone, Sharon here. I'm in England. It's our last day, and Ricky Hart had asked me to talk about what Woodbridge meant to me. And I was fortunate enough to be in Woodbridge last week, and I had a chance to really think about that. And I realized what it means to me is a sense of belonging. Although I got to Woodbridge in 5th grade, it wasn't until 8th grade, through 12th grade, that I really felt like I belonged for the first time out of school and with all of you. And I'm very grateful that I got that sense of belonging, and I think it continues to be there. I think that's why we still have reunions. It's 40 years later for the class of 78, and here we're still getting together, and there's still that very strong sense of belonging. I feel very grateful to have had that, and grateful to all of you for contributing to that. So cheers to all of you.
First, to begin with, a quick apology. I'm going off to Kauai with Scott, and I didn't realize that it was at the same time as your get-together, and otherwise I definitely would be there. My time at Woodbridge was definitely one of the highlights of my life, and I will have incredibly fond memories of what took place. And I think part of it is when you build something from scratch. And that's what we all did. And it wasn't a venture just of administrators, but it was teachers, and most importantly, it was students that participated in that. It was a little like, I know it sounds corny, but to me it was our Camelot. It was that golden moment where everything seemed to go right. And it was just a wondrous time. And just the fact that you have 100 people getting together all these years because there was that wonderful feeling. And it probably isn't because of the academics, but nevertheless, it was everything to me. And in hindsight, sitting back, that would be one of the times in my life that I would love to relive. All my best to all of you. Have a great time.
It's Deanne Dorch Peel. I hope you're having an amazing time at the reunion in Vegas, and so wish I could be there. I really want to give a shout out to the class of 78. Yay, 40 years this year. That's amazing. Somebody have a drink for me from the class of 78. I just love that we can get together like this, and give a shout out to the reunion organizers as well. I know how much work they put into this, and just love that we can get together. And that's really what I took away from my experience at Woodbridge and in England, is the relationships. The fact that we were so close then. Of course, we were a smaller school, but we just had some relationships that were so meaningful and impactful at the time. And the fact that we still can have those relationships and get together, and it feels like we're still back in the 70s, 80s, and remembering all of those times that we spent together. I love that we know where each other are, and that we can comment on family experiences on social media. That is just amazing. But that's what I took away, is the relationships and the ability to really have that closeness and feel like it was a place that you could belong. I also loved the ability to travel to other countries. I mean, who can say that they experienced a forensics contest in Brussels, Belgium, and London, England? I mean, that's just amazing in itself. And then take a trip to Greece. These earrings are actually from Greece. I can't believe I still have them, but who can say that they took a trip in high school to Greece? And such amazing memories that I'll never forget. It's made me who I am today, and just enjoy each other and have a great time, and hope to see you on social media. Take care. Bye-bye.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send the blood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. Another round of bullets hits my skin. Well, fire away, 'cause today I won't let the pain sink in. We are bursting through the barricades and reaching for the sun. We are warriors. That's what we become. I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us. Oh, we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send the blood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send the blood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me.